last visit in, not my last visit should I say, but the second last visit in a mental institution in Bentley Lockwood, where I spent 53 days in the mental institution, where I was falsely admitted based on my doctor setting me up. Basically, so what I decided to do is that I decided to smuggle in a digital recorder and record my stay at the Bentley Hospital Mental Institution. Every day I had a recorder, and basically in those 53 days the recordings uncover major corruption. Firstly, my minutes, for the reason why I was in there in the first place, was totally corrupt. Dr. Budrikis had set me up, and I can prove that beyond the shadow of a doubt with the recordings that I have, and shows that it's totally corrupt minutes into hospital. And basically I'm suggesting that when you aren't ill and you don't suffer from mental illness, these are the methods that they would have to use to put you in hospital. Now the bottom line is that some of the things that come up, like, you must understand that if I'm in hospital and they say that I suffer from delusional disorder, then basically I should be at a time where I'm speaking delusionally, and that's how I'm deemed to be ill. If I'm more or less speaking shit or being delusional, that's how I'm deemed to be sick. So the bottom line is that these recordings, firstly you must listen to what I'm saying and basically form the opinion whether you believe me or not, firstly, and secondly the content and what I'm talking about, whether that's radical, etc., etc. And the other thing in the recordings is that, like, while I'm telling my stories to staff members, etc., etc., whether they take on whether it's true or not. Like, for instance, if I'm talking about the Tony Mockball incident and like hiring a hitman, like when I told that story to the hospital staff member that I remember in one of the conversations that's recorded in the hospital, the bottom line is, like, the first thing he says, he takes on that it was real. He says to me, "Alex, weren't you scared?" You know what I mean? Like, and if he didn't believe that, if he thought that I was delusional, then the point is that he wouldn't have said, would you think you're scared? You know, like, the bottom line is that it's obvious that he believed my story, and when I tell it to him at the time, and the bottom line is that, like, that story there, like, I'm talking about police corruption, that story there involves Australia's largest crime figure and hiring a hitman. The bottom line is, if I can prove that story, which would seem to be the possibility to be the most far-fetched, and I can prove 100% it's true. The bottom line is that how delusional am I? You know, like the car that I stole off the lawyer that set me up in that police operation, and the money, the car's still in the backyard of my next door neighbour's house. And I went to the police with a digital recorder and told them I stole the car, and they didn't say anything. They didn't care. They did care. They didn't like what I did, but at the end of the day they weren't going to do anything about it. And the bottom line is that it's just ridiculous. You know, like, how can this be so? You know, like, you can't have all these inconsistencies. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the recordings, lots of things come out. Like, there were staff members that had quite personal words to me, like, they can't believe that I'm still here. They can't. Other comments were, you know, like, ones that were very sympathetic that I was still inside. Ones that couldn't believe Dr. Budrikis couldn't recall the conversation that I had recorded on a phone conversation, and had the recorder inside the office where he was playing a wrestle with telling me to go get a lawyer. Now, when you're in a men's institution, the bottom line is that you got stuff there, you're allowed to ring up your friends, tell your friends to come pick it up, but Dr. Budrikis wouldn't allow my friends to come pick up my digital recorder that had him recorded and captured him setting me up, and he didn't want to give me that digital recorder back. In other recordings, basically I already had a double recorder before I even went into hospital, so I was just playing around with him, like, just to see him sweat on how much he wanted that digital recorder to not come back in my hands. And basically he's telling me to go get a lawyer, etc., etc., and all those conversations are recorded. And basically when I tell him that I can prove that he set me up without using the recordings, but simply when I did the recording, my neighbour was with me when I was recording it on loudspeaker, and basically he heard the whole conversation. When I pointed out to him that I don't need to produce the recordings, he choked, and you can hear that in the recording, and then he slams the door in my face. Now the bottom line is that I caught Dr. Budrikis out big time, setting me up, so I continued on 53 days. For example, Dr. Mortimer that came in, the forensic psychiatrist that was going to determine whether I was ill or not, and they were basing their judgments and like saying that, you know, we'll leave it up to him to make his mind up. I went into that meeting with my digital recorder, and basically I explained the boat accident and how I caught Mark Shepherd, and basically in the same meeting he's telling me that the reason why I'm being locked up is because of Mark Shepherd. Now Mark Shepherd, he agrees with me that I caught Mark Shepherd and Mark Shepherd's involved in my boat accident, and then in the same meeting he tells me that he talks about Mark Shepherd and how they're protecting him, and that's the reason why I was locked up. So he gets it, that Mark Shepherd tried to kill me, and then he also tells me in the same breath that am I going to hurt Mark Shepherd, and that's why I'm locked up, to be protected, so Mark Shepherd could be protected. Absolutely disgusting. You know, and the recordings are so, what you get out of the recordings is that you get to hear my state of mind, and you get to hear whether I'm saying things soundly, and we can prove now that what I was saying in most of those conversations was not delusional. I mean, how delusional are they? They think they're monitoring my mind every day, and they know what I'm doing. Bottom line is, I smuggled in a digital recorder, and I went past metal detector checks simply because I stole a metal pen. And basically, when I got checked by the metal detector, because I had the pen in my back pocket, they thought they found what was going beep, 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 and the reason why I was going off, and they didn't search me any further. That's how I'm delusional. I was recording them every moment of the way, like a scoop reporter, and basically every day, and these recordings come out perfectly, and they're suggesting that I'm delusional. I was on a mission to prove the corruption, and if you hear the recordings, I succeed in that mission to prove what I'm saying here and what I'm trying to bring across, that I don't suffer from a mental illness, and the bottom line is Bentley Hospital are corrupt as, I can't believe it, how corrupt they are.